And today is Saturday. I'm still in California. We have a great conference going on the science of consciousness, put up by the University of Arizona under the leadership of Stuart Hameroff from the University of Arizona, and sponsored by UCSD, University of California in San Diego. And actually today is my plenary session where I'm going to talk about mind, brain, body, universe as, guess what? Human constructs. Kren from Istanbul. Nice to meet you, Kren. Okay, so today's question comes from Arthur, and he says, I would like to hear your thoughts on these questions. Are these modes of knowing or modifications of consciousness constant? Number one. And number two, is the infinite playing games with itself, because if it is the only true reality behind these modes, then that means it creates these modes to amuse itself. Perhaps without these modes of knowing, it is nothing. Thank you, and do forgive me if my question does not sound right. Actually, it sounds pretty right. I might phrase this a little differently, but it sounds perfectly right to me. As I said, I might rephrase some of the sentences. So the first question, are these modes of knowing or modifications of consciousness constant? Well, the regularities of the modes of knowing, we call them laws of nature, but they are in fact regularities of modes of knowing and experience. We know the sun rises every day and sets every evening, right? That's a constant experience. Everything that we call a law of nature is a constant mode of knowing and experience. But there are creative modes of knowing as well. In our own personal experience, when we are creative, then that results in a new mode or new modification of consciousness as images, sense perceptions, sensations, thoughts, feelings. There's great joy in creativity. So creativity is a break from the repetition of the nodes of knowing and experience. Now you ask, does that apply to what we perceive as the universe? And the answer is yes, because the universe is always evolving, and if you have consciousness as your ontological primitive, then the universe is creative, and the universe is evolving through leaps of creativity. To many who are hardcore scientists and who call me a pseudoscientist, this is more or less a heresy that the universe is creative, because according to hardcore science, the universe is random and at least in biological forms evolves through natural selection. But by now you probably know that I don't really care what these hardcore scientists think or what they call pseudoscience. You know, yesterday's science is slowly becoming today's pseudoscience, and much of what is called pseudoscience today is becoming regular science. So leave aside those labels. But if our ontological primitive is consciousness, then of course, since consciousness conceives, constructs, governs, and becomes the universe, and consciousness is constantly taking breaks from its regularities, both as evolution, if we agree that biological evolution at least is guided by consciousness, then the universe is also breaking these modes of knowing and experience on a regular basis, and we call that evolution, cosmic evolution also, and biological evolution, because our biology is also an activity, of course, of consciousness. Our biology is an experience in consciousness, therefore an activity in consciousness. And we know we can reinvent our body. In fact, I'm doing that right now. I'll give you a report in 6 months. Once you understand that the body is a process, that our genes and brain networks are activities easily influenced through epigenetics that responds to thoughts, feelings, emotions, everything that we call lifestyle, sleep, meditation, stress management, healthy relationships and social interactions, environment, nutrition, grounding, all of that, then we can creatively participate in both reinventing our bodies, resurrecting our soul, and changing our experience of that which we call the universe and that which we call our body. Second question you've asked is the infinite playing games with itself? Well, I would say the infinite has a play. We call it Leela. Leela is the cosmic play in Sanskrit. And yes, the universe is the play of consciousness. And this play of consciousness is very interesting because this play of consciousness occurs through species of consciousness. We are a particular species of consciousness that we call Homo sapiens, which means the wise ones, a name we gave to ourselves. But we are perhaps, I'm not sure, because who knows about, at this moment, life on other planets. But we are a very creative species of consciousness that has created science, technology, art, music, architecture. We have created cathedrals and temples and monuments, and we have created the space shuttle and CERN and amazing technology. So I think we are definitely a very creative, playful species, except when we take ourselves too seriously and our ego dominates, then we actually become diabolical and dangerous. But if we stay playful, if we stay humble, if we stay in gratitude, if we have a shared vision, if we complement each other's strengths, if we bond emotionally and spiritually, I believe there is no problem that doesn't have a creative solution. In fact, the problem is, the so-called problem, is an invitation for our creativity. Now, having said this, if you read the book carefully, You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self, then there is a section in the last part of the book on page 248. It says Qualia Principles, the Foundations for a Science of Consciousness. So these Qualia, first of all, Qualia, qualities of experience in the form of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, sense perceptions, which are all modifications of consciousness. Then we can outline the principles that we can use to actually propagate the play of consciousness into radically new ways of creativity and evolution. Something that I believe will result in our species moving from moving from human to meta-human. Okay, and so I'll just read a few of the Qualia principles. For human beings, subjective experiences are in the form of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, sense perceptions. The general term for these is Qualia. Subjective reality is a vast composite of different qualia such as color, light, pain, pleasure, texture, taste, memory, desire, anxiety, joy. All subjective experiences are qualia. This includes every perception, every cognition, every mental event. No mental event can be left out, including feelings of love, compassion, suffering, hostility, sexual pleasure, religious ecstasy. At a subtle level, qualia are perceived as insight, intuition, imagination, inspiration, and creativity. The experience of the body is a qualia experience. Therefore, you can reinvent your body. The experience of mental activity is a qualia experience. You can change your mental activity. The experience of the world or any other worlds is a qualia experience. So what we call the world or objective reality is a qualia experience and therefore subject to revision. The I feeling as a qualia, as an ego, is a qualia experience. The you feeling is a qualia experience. Qualia then allow us to connect everything together through a common property. Every single thing is an aspect of one field of consciousness. As conscious beings processing reality every moment of our lives, we express ourselves in a qualia vocabulary. The qualia vocabulary is an attempt to put experience into words. The language of science, however, attempts the opposite, to extract experience in the name of objectivity. But objectivity itself denotes an experience. A language set apart from qualia doesn't exist. Okay, so I've read you just a little bit from the section in the book that's called Getting Comfortable with Qualia. Isha and 15 others just shared your video. I deeply appreciate it, Isha Ali. This is how we expand the conversation. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going for now, and I'm almost at the end. Perception is the engine that creates species-specific experiences. Each experience reshapes physical reality, leading in humans to a qualia vocabulary that keeps up with every new change. The fact that so-called lower animals, including insects and birds, also have extremely complex vocabularies, not linguistic, but qualia vocabularies, is evidence for the creative link between language and reality. Okay, so that's a little bit from the section that's called Getting Comfortable with Qualia, and I will explore this more with you. But for now, I think, Arthur, I have answered your questions. Both, is there a constancy to modes of knowing and experience? And the answer is yes and no at the same time. Is the infinite playing games with itself? Let's call it the play of consciousness, the creative and evolutionary play of consciousness, and then we are both on the same page. Thank you and have a great day.